In our exploration of the second wave and third wave of volunteers, we are reminded of the profound insights shared by modern spiritual voices like Christina von Dreien. Born into this world as a beacon of light and wisdom, Christina's teachings resonate deeply with those navigating the currents of spiritual awakening in today's world. The majority of the crystal children in this second phase were born in the 1980s, some of them even earlier. They too are often experienced souls from higher dimensional spheres who have come here to support and further the evolutionary leap of humanity. A striking feature of this new generation is that they are less fearful and are willing to let go of the old and open up to the new. On the energy level, they are further developed, lovers of harmony and very loving themselves. Because of their high frequency of vibration, you could also call it crystal consciousness, it is difficult for them to endure negative energies in their environment. They don't like pressure, stress, or disquiet, and they have a pronounced inner aversion to any form of destructive strategy. Thanks to this second wave, spirituality has now become public in our Western societies, and issues that in earlier centuries were discussed and passed on only within closed circles and secret societies are now accessible to a wide public. A further element is that people began to question traditional forms of faith and religious dogmas without fear, finding the way to a new form of holistic spirituality, which is not characterized by delimitation and hostile thinking, but by reconciliation and fraternization. Crystal people are looking for a multi-dimensional, divine image of the world and of the human being, and for the inward leading path that unifies all people, and they carry a new understanding of themselves and of their own role in the greater whole. However, they are challenged not to lose themselves in illusory worlds and pseudo-spiritual constructs that still follow the patterns of the ruling systems. This second generation of time changers were also often born into difficult circumstances and have to struggle with both internal and external resistance. In a lecture in December 2017, Christina speaks about the pioneer generations of the first and second wave in a touching manner. She expresses her gratitude with the following words. Already today, many adults are consciously living the time change. If we take this seriously and leave aside the various divisions, then everyone on the spiritual path is already a time changer. It's that simple. Without today's adults who have already pioneered on the spiritual path, we would not be where we are today. Yes, the new children now arriving have a higher vibration frequency than their parents, but vibration also increases with gratitude. That's why it's also important to be grateful to the pioneers, because without them, I wouldn't be able to speak here now. Without them, we would probably not be able to sit together here as a group at all, because without them, there would be no such openness. Therefore, a big thank you should go to those who have done this preparatory work in the past. My thanks go to all pioneers living somewhere in the world. Without their pioneering work, children like me wouldn't be able to come here. This is a great blessing, probably an almost greater blessing than the fact that the new children are now coming. The third wave. After the pioneer generations of the first and the second wave, a third phase with the rainbow children, named after their often rainbow-coloured aura, followed around the year 2000. In this new generation of high-vibration souls, we find the true bringers of peace for our time. In their lifetime, they will complete what the pioneers began. These new children vibrate at an even higher frequency and are not interested in compulsive power systems, in outward material success or cheap social recognition. The obsolete school systems, the three-dimensional sciences, the manipulative technologies, the patriarchal belief systems, and the destructive excesses of culture and consumption, all this holds no fascination for them whatsoever. But they also don't react to it with anger, rejection, or condemnation. They live in a harmonious we-consciousness. They know the universal laws and the rules of the game, and they will therefore take other paths. As empowered bearers of the vision of the good, they will be the builders of a future society full of respect, harmony, and peace. These souls are fully aware of what a turbulent time they've been born into, because they volunteered for this Earth mission and consciously chose their incarnation. They are prepared for the enormous challenges to come, as the last rulers of the Unlight are unlikely to voluntarily let go of their power. In this context, Christina goes on to reveal her own origin. My plane of origin is not a near-Earth sphere, but a higher, very light-filled plane. Originally, however, we all come from one and the same place, because we all come from the same divine source. What distinguishes us is merely that we are going through different learning processes and that the number of incarnations we have been through. More precisely, the stations within the multidimensional creation that we've visited differs. We therefore have different levels of experience and maturity. As for me, with my frequency, it is only possible for me to inhabit a three-dimensional material body if I remain anchored in the higher planes with my mind at the same time. Smiling, she adds, I'm least well anchored here in the deeper dimensions, meaning up to and including the fourth density. All beings that incarnate as terrestrial human beings should first ground themselves in order to be firmly anchored in this third density, and this then enables them to manifest their earthly tasks. I also had to ground myself to begin with, and the other time-change children are facing the same challenge. However, through my consciousness, I'm also anchored in numerous other dimensions and therefore constantly present in parallel in other non-terrestrial spheres. Christina tells me that in these higher spheres, she keeps coming across people I know from our third dimension here. This is because people who have an expanded consciousness are able to travel to other cosmic levels, just like Christina, which is why Christina occasionally meets them there, sometimes intentionally and sometimes more by accident. Since Christina usually only sleeps for a few hours at night, she has plenty of time to undertake out-of-body journeys to other spheres. I ask her why she needs much less sleep than most others. She answers that it's probably connected with the fact that she never worries about anything and therefore doesn't use up valuable life energy unnecessarily. She says, a lot of people worry about something all the time. Perhaps 90% of their thoughts are concerned with grief, sorrow, and anxiety. That's unimaginable for me. Are you aware of how much energy is wasted uselessly? With this, she confirms what psychological research has also established. Unconscious or suppressed negative feelings and emotions, subliminal fears, and unprocessed traumas devour enormous amounts of energy. It is assumed that the causative disorder often accounts for only 10% of the respective current problem, and that up to 90% of the person's vital forces are wasted through non-constructive and inappropriate handling of the situation. Our conversation then returns to the different generations of time-change people. In summary, Christina explains, as mentioned before, many of these souls with higher vibration were and are born into difficult life situations and often have to fight hard to find their way through. But they are all here voluntarily, even if some forget this temporarily in the hustle and bustle of these times. As you know, I had a lot of trouble getting used to my physical body in the first few years, and to the conditions in this third dimension in general. The hardest part for me was nutrition. Since food is light in the higher dimensions, I couldn't eat solids for more than 6 years. Another challenging aspect for me was my previous earthly incarnation. A part of my soul still hung, as it were, in my last life, which actually ended very shortly before this incarnation. This last remark understandably arouses my interest, and Christina promises to go deeper into her previous earthly incarnations in one of our next conversations. But first I think back to her early childhood and to all the great physical difficulties she had to struggle with at that time. For many years she needed extremely time-consuming care, as well as artificially feeding through a peg tube in her abdominal wall to enable her to remain in her body and survive at all. When she was young, it was apparent that she had great difficulty with the element of water, and even today she still finds submerging herself in cold water challenging. One of the reasons she gives for this is that being underwater massively alters her perception. She says that warm water is much better than cold water, and you can sometimes see her swimming around like fish in brine baths. She also finds vehicles with wheels difficult. Although she has been riding scooters fairly safely since she was about 10 years old, she feels far too insecure when riding a bicycle, which is why she doesn't do it. Of course, skiing is also a major issue here in the Swiss mountain regions, so Christina has also ventured onto skis now and again. She manages well on skis and seldom falls, but she is extremely slow on her planks. When it comes to using her hands, there are quite a few manual activities at which she's rather clumsy. She's notably challenged above all by manual work involving tools or textiles as well as cooking. But she can deal with this peculiarity without any problem because it's absolutely clear to her that she will never take up any skilled manual work anyway. Her writing, on the other hand, is very good, and above all, she has excellent command of a computer keyboard. She is even incredibly quick at it if need be. She emphasises that this manual clumsiness is simply peculiar to her personally, and is not a characteristic of high-vibration people generally. Every time-change person has a personal soul plan and a preset soul path, and is endowed with the gifts and abilities necessary to fulfill their individual destiny. She also emphasises that time-change children should not be superficially regarded as laid-back slackers or socially unfit egoists simply because they refuse to bow to the ruling systems of school, the economy, politics, or religion. Of course, excessive laziness or self-centeredness may be true in individual cases, but overall this is a new generation of people with a clear view and expanded consciousness who don't function according to the old thought patterns of their parents and grandparents. They use not only their rational intellect, but also their intuition and empathy. Therefore, Christina explains, you need a certain empathic capability to understand these children. Many people in my generation of today's over 40-year-olds, as well as the preceding generations of course, learned to live by firm beliefs in society, religion and science, as well as by clearly defined moral rules and social guidelines, and to hardly ever question them seriously. We learned that with much hard work, obedience, diligence and discipline, we can progress and rise within the ruling system. The fact that most of our personal needs and our own inner development fell by the wayside was not an issue at all for most people, not to mention any awareness of an overarching soul plan and the specific purpose in life of each individual. Isolated pioneer souls from this first wave generation, with a consciousness that was already sufficiently high enough to place these issues at the center of their lives, tend to be the exception. In the generation of today's under 40-year-olds, on the other hand, there are visibly more people with a higher level of consciousness who've realized that the meaning and purpose of being human is not to be a perfect herd animal and obediently follow pre-packaged opinions and guidelines. They choose not to work hard all their lives and not to serve a dehumanized performance system without resistance until they become ill from exhaustion or drop dead. These conscious second-wave people know exactly what they want and what they do not want. Good education and a good job, yes, but not at any price. This means they're more courageous and determined in their decisions, trusting that their personal potential will unfold if they trust their intuition and follow their heart's desires, and when they have found their proper place in society and are able to fulfill their intended service to the greater whole. They know that this is the path to becoming not only outwardly successful, but also inwardly fulfilled and happy. Through such attitudes and orientation, they free themselves from everyday external stress as well as from inner doubts, worries and fears. This means that they live both mentally and physically at a healthier level. And the best thing about it is, by stepping out of the passive victim role and taking the responsibility for their own lives into their own hands, they escape the grip of the manipulative dark powers. The more securely they are anchored in their soul plan and in their individual purpose in life, the less insecure and manipulable they are in the external areas of their lives. Finally, in the generation of under 20-year-olds, many children and adolescents are, already today, different yet again. As the first pioneers of the third wave, they are even more conscious and internally even more mature, and they no longer need years of life experience in order to recognize what is right and what is wrong. Many of today's time-change children are aware of their soul plan and soul path from birth, and they will unswervingly fulfill their individual purpose in life and contribute to the evolutionary leap of humanity. As Christina so aptly said, all these children need is understanding and love, as well as space for their creativity and individual development. As we conclude our exploration of the second and third waves of volunteers, we invite you to ponder the wisdom and insights they have bestowed upon humanity. From the crystal children's pursuit of harmony to the rainbow children's embodiment of unity, their presence reminds us of the infinite potential within each soul. What lessons have you gleaned from their journey? And what insights do you believe the rainbow children bring to the ongoing evolution of humanity? Please like and subscribe to my channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, the path to enlightenment is illuminated by the collective wisdom of all who walk it. Until next time, may you continue to journey with courage, compassion, and an open heart.